welcome you all on behalf of IHMA Kerala State Chapter. IHMA Kerala State Chapter has conducted a series of 50 sessions of Season 1 of free webinar, and this is the Season 2 of free webinars conducted by IHMA Kerala State Chapter. And dear delegates, only the permitted recordings alone will be uploaded in the YouTube, because some recordings consist of the information of the patients which cannot be disclosed in the internet. So I request all the delegates to make fruitful use of all the webinars. And before starting the session, we should salute our master, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, sir, because as a homeopath, we should owe all our credits to our master for his uncompromised efforts, because without him, we are nothing today. So thank you so much, master. Today's speaker, we have Dr. Harkirat S. Vilko, sir. And today's topic is silent killer, hypertension, and metabolic disorders. I would like to give an introduction about the speaker for today. Dr. Harkirat S. Vilko, sir, has completed his BHMS, DIH UK, CSEPI USA, postgraduate in preventive and promotive healthcare, wellness management from Apollo Hospitals, specialist diploma in lifestyle medicine, certificate diploma in metabolic disorders, certificate diploma in exercise prescriptions, certificate diploma in stress management from Harvard Medical School, Boston, USA, MBA healthcare, specialist lifestyle medicine, ACLM, certified corporate wellness specialist, diploma in cardiac rehabilitation, Apollo. Dr. Harkirat S. Vilko, sir, is a compassionate healthcare professional with 2 decades hands-on experience in the field of lifestyle medicine and preventive promotive healthcare. He holds repeated success in evaluating and conducting individual counseling, supporting 45K plus corporate employees in identifying opportunities to improve their well-being by lifestyle modification. Sir is a trusted public speaker who has delivered 1,800 plus health education talks in the UAE and 800 plus talks in India for corporations and schools. Sir has bagged number of awards: Corporate Wellness Professional of the Year 2019 International category, Corporate Wellness Team Leader of the Year 2016 Damen or finalist, Corporate Wellness Best Health Practices 2015 CCWS. He specializes in health, wellness, and chronic disease management with a focus on developing high standards of health practice, evaluating employees' health for effectiveness, and implementing necessary health and lifestyle changes with programs and policies. He is a specialist in occupational Medicaid statuses and management information systems, committed to long-term employee or school wellness. Sir has worked as a project lead in many number of programs and is also currently working CII Apollo National Corporate Wellness Program, Dabur India School Wellness Program, College School Health and Wellness Clinic. He is currently working as project lead on Wellness WOW UAE, School Wellness Sahi UAE. Sir's highlights of expertise are program management and leadership, corporate or school health assessments, public presentations and workshops, lifestyle medicine and occupational health, disease management programs, corporate wellness programs, homeopathy and health counseling. Sir, it is our privilege to have you in today's session, sir. Thanks for accepting the invite, sir. Please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me on this wonderful session. So this is my first time I am getting connected to IHMA. I have been attending the CMEs in UAE conducted by IHMA UAE chapter. This is my first opportunity to connect with you guys. Thank you so much. So I'm audible clearly?
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
Okay, fine. See, being a homeopath, we already are taking case takings, doing the root analysis for the disease and the symptoms and the sufferings. But we lack in one part, which all the medical professionals, not only the homeopaths, all medical professionals lack. That is the lifestyle management. So now, if you see worldwide, especially in European countries, you might have seen ACLM, word ACLM. ACLM stands for American College of Lifestyle Medicine and American College of Preventive Medicine. This is the apex body for lifestyle medicine, and the secondary apex body is Harvard Medical School, which works on lifestyle medicine. Now, for last 10 to 15 years, people, those who are professionals in practicing medicine, they are more focusing on the root causes like the homeopath does. But we are taking root cause as a symptom analysis to find out what the exact cause is, and we are treating the cause. The other medical school, the modern medical school, now is including lifestyle factors as a root cause, why it is happening, and what are the things which can be modified to improve the health. In total, in nutshell, we can say this is the lifestyle medicine. Now, this is being supported along with the medication wherever it is required. So today we will be talking about the most hot topic, the silent killer, hypertension and metabolic disorders. So I'll start with this. My main motto, sorry, I think the screen is again hanged up.
Okay, sir. We can see the first slide. Okay.
The next slide, it is not coming down. No? That's the reason I skipped that time also. How to do it?
Okay, sir.
Sure. Let me find out from the beginning. Yeah. Is it now?
Yeah, it's okay, sir.
Okay, fine. So our main motto for today's session will be to, even my voice is,
Yes, sir. It is little bit echoing, sir.
yeah, is what to do?
So no problem, sir. We can continue, sir. No
Okay,
problem.
okay, no problem. Okay, fine. Main motto for today's learning objective will be to empower the knowledge of all our colleagues how to prevent, manage, and reverse all the non-communicable disease NCDs like hypertension, metabolic disorders, diabetes, lifestyle-related diseases. The focus input will be how to modify nutrition, how to prescribe a physical activity, how to manage the stress levels, and sleep hygiene, the dependency management, and quit tobacco. So these, whatever we are talking, everywhere in a chronic disease, it is giving an impact. So we go for the first one. See, we are talking about the CVA. Generally, CVA stands for cerebrovascular accident, as everyone knows. But the secondary word for it is the cardiovascular accident. Why we are using this cardiovascular accident? Just because it will cover cardiac regions also, all arterial disease orders also, and stroke also. So in CVA triology, there are three major factors: hypertension, dyslipidemia, and diabetes, type 1 and type 2. So why we'll be putting up only key points, and then we'll discuss a little more about it. The blood pressure. What is the impact of the blood pressure? What is the pathophysiology about that? It creates a friction in the blood vessels. Due to friction, it creates damage. Now this is one part. Now what the dyslipidemia does? Dyslipidemia is hardening the vessels. Is give production of obstructive plaques, which is reducing the blood supply. Then diabetes. This is weakening the intima of the arteries. So these are the major three factors which if you see everywhere in chronic disease, these are three playing back role to create a majority of the problems. Now we will talk about the blood pressure. Everyone knows about what blood pressure is, but why we are talking about the pathophysiology is like systole. Everyone knows systole is a contraction. It pumps out the blood. Systole is happening in arterial also, ventricular also. It's a mechanical process triggered by electrical impulse. Now it is represented by P wave in the ECG, you know. Now there are few things which are very important for a homeopath to understand, because in allopathy, in modern science, they don't give a very good response to this, but lifestyle medicine does. Even homeopath does on it. Systolic hypertension. I'm not going to the medicine because we are talking a session for the lifestyle medicine. If the systolic blood pressure is more than 140, but still the diastole is below 90, It is known as systolic hypertension or systolic blood pressure. This is isolated systolic hypertension also. Sometimes it is said like this. Now, what the reason behind is? The reason behind it is reduced aortic compliances or all the arterial compliances with aging. What actually happens with the aging? The sclerosis, the hardening of the intima, that reduces the compliance of the all vascular walls, due to which the ventricular load and the arterial load has increased. And major part for the ventricles to pump out the blood to the body, that creates a long run. If there is a long run of aortic compliance, if there is a long run of systolic hypertension, then there is a ventricular hypertrophy, which may lead to heart failure also. Who is it at risk? Risk is everyone. Risk is for everyone, but mainly for the elderly people. It can be modified. Yes, it can be modified by lifestyle medicine. Next, we will see the same way. Again, the major physiology is relaxation, pumps in the blood. Again, it's an arterial, ventricular, it's a mechanical triggered by the electrical impulses. It is represented by T wave. Now, here the difference being the systolic hypertension is above this, and above 90, if the diastolic goes, then this is the isolated diastolic hypertension. Now, what is more impacted? Coronary ischemia is there, heart failure is again there. Who is at risk? Everyone is at risk, but mainly the young people. It can be treated by LSM. LSM means lifestyle medicine. I will not go into it. Everyone knows about these parameters. Now, what is the main focus? The main focus for us as a medical professional, who whatever your treatment pathy is, major factor for managing or monitoring blood pressure is to prevent stroke, prevent cardiac problems, to prevent eye problems, to prevent kidney problems, and to prevent the peripheral vascular disease. If you see, all these diseases can be prevented. Well managed. If you have existing problems, you can manage it with the lifestyle medicine. Now, the risk factors. We are now talking in total. We are talking about the blood pressure, we are talking about the diabetes, we are talking about the lipidemia. All metabolic disorders. Who is at the risk and what is the risk group? The risk group is basically divided into three groups: non-modifiable, modifiable, and medical. Now, what is non-modifiable? Which we can't modify, like your family history, your age, your gender, your race. We can't do anything on it. Modifiable. This is the majority of the lifestyle-oriented disease. Overweight or obesity. I hope everyone knows the difference between overweight and obesity. Sedentary lifestyle, chronic stress, alcohol, tobacco, smoking, diet rich in salt, fat, simple sugar, and fast food. These are modifiable. We can modify. We can redesign our diet. We can redesign our regime. No, the third part is medical factors like chronic kidney disease, diabetes, dyslipidemia, thyromegaly. Now, if we are talking about the chronic kidney disease, what are the things? Why we are talking about chronic kidney disease? There are a lot of symptoms, lot of diseases connected to it. But we will focus mainly on two things: weak filtration and angiotensin mechanism. So everyone knows about it. I will not go into detail, but still we are focusing on, we are actually worried about weak filtration and angiotensin mechanism. Now, diabetes, hyperlipidemia. Hyperlipidemia, if we are talking, there are 5 parameters of cholesterol, but we are mainly concerned about the LDL and triglyceride. Why these two? Because these are the main culprits. Cholesterol, everyone say if you have cholesterol, you have a lot of problems. But no, there are a lot of myths on the cholesterols. But whatever problems is being generated due to high cholesterol is mainly done by LDL, the low density lipoprotein, as well as triglyceride. Now, what actually they do, they create the viscosity, increase the viscosity of the blood by increasing the triglyceride into it. And by that, when the LDL is high, it creates a plaque or obstructions, which leads to CADs. Now, thyromegaly, what thyroid problems are connected? There are a lot of symptoms and diseases oriented to thyroid, but what we are basically talking about the calcium channel mechanism, because thyroid is the organ which regulates your calcium intake. So the calcium is again connected to your diabetes, connected to your blood pressure, again connected to your lipid also. So that is a biochemistry. It takes again a big session, but I'm not going into it, but simple pinpoints I'm giving you. So these are the risk factors. If you have control on these factors, which what is modifiable, what is the medical risk, what is non-modifiable, what you can't do. So then you can plan a regime. Dyslipidemia, everyone is aware of it. Okay, now cholesterol. As I said, the cholesterol nowadays being said, rather I would say last 10 years back, it was a big culprit. Cholesterol was a big culprit. And as many of the professors have also said, it was done by the pharmacies, which wanted to promote the statins, the anti-cholesterol medicines. But do you really think cholesterol is a problematic thing? No. Cholesterol is not a problematic thing. See, if we see inside our body, 65% of the cholesterol is made by our body itself. Only 35% we are taking from outside. But there is a difference. Then why we say, don't eat that, don't eat this? Because whatever we eat, that 35% which we are taking from outside is not a good type of cholesterol. What is good type of cholesterol? Before that, where cholesterol is required? Cholesterol is required in all the cell membranes. Wherever cell membrane is there, cholesterol is part of that. Cholesterol is also important for cell transportation, nerve conduction. It's an insulation on the myelin sheath, gives a protection. Even in bile salt and bile pigment formation, cholesterol is required. Many of the hormones, it makes a precursor for corticosteroids, the steroidal hormones, the sex hormones. It is one of the important precursors for vitamin D. Without cholesterol, you cannot have vitamin D. If you stop cholesterol, if you stop eating anything which is containing fat, but mind it, there is nothing which doesn't contain a fat. Even a grain of a wheat has a fat, but it differs how much quantity and quality it has. So what we are talking today, see, this parameter everyone knows, but I'll be focusing only on the LDL and the triglyceride. LDL does, actually what LDL does? LDL does the hardening of the arteries, creates the formation of plaque, the obstructions, and it increases the viscosity of the blood. The same thing the triglyceride does, but triglyceride is little bit in different pattern. It stores all the fat, whichever is not required, in and convert into calories. It is stored in the body. So once it is stored in the body, it again thickens the blood. Viscosity is increased. It increases the LDL production also. And how HDL, the high density lipoprotein, which we say it's a cardioprotective. Is HDL cardioprotective? Actually, no. HDL doesn't protect your heart. HDL actually protects the inflammatory process in the arteries, which translates into protection of your heart. It's not direct. If you improve your HDL, it doesn't mean you will not have a heart attack. Yes, but if you improve your HDL, the inflammatory process in your arteries will reduce. It's an anti-inflammatory product. Right? So, what is the prevention? Everyone knows whatever I said. I have just pinpoint all the common points into it. And what is actually the thing we are behind it? Prevention. How to prevent it? How to prescribe? How to use in our daily practice? If we use the prevention in a proper manner, the therapeutic, simply, I'm not talking about the management, lifestyle management. I'm talking about lifestyle medicine. You know, there is a very famous quote, lifestyle thy medicine. Lifestyle itself is a medicine. If you use lifestyle modification in a proper way, you will require less of medicine. So we can use lifestyle medicine. Everyone does, all the doctors and any pathy use. Now they are very much familiar of using, but nobody knows the actual concept of lifestyle medicine. If you see, generally, if you see, even most of you will be doing this. If the patient is a diabetic, you simply say, don't eat rice. Why? Just because rice contains carbohydrate. Wheat doesn't contain carbohydrate. Potato doesn't contain carbohydrate. We say eat baked potato, but don't fry a potato. Why? There are a lot of points which can be discussed, which has a very strong impact when you use it properly. Being for last 20 years, I'm into lifestyle medicine. I'm using it on my patients for chronic case management, especially for the chronic. Then came into promotive healthcare. I never say my diabetic patients to stop the rice. I say, okay, eat everything. But the easiest thing, why it is said, because you cannot quantify the amount of rice. But if you are eating a chapati, it's very easy. Okay, eat one chapati, eat two chapati. You can easily quantify. But rice is a little bit difficult. But have you noticed, if any of the patient is being admitted to hospital, and hospital is providing a food to the patient, they will give you rice. Even the patient is on insulin. Even the patient is highly diabetic on oral medicine, but they will give you rice. Why? Because that dietitian is sitting over in the hospital. Dietitian is able to control the amount of rice given to the patient. That's the reason. Okay, fine. Now we were talking about the prevention. Then we see, okay, if we take it for ourselves, there is a very funny saying you can say. Every night before going to sleep, I plan, okay, these are my problems. I have to modify these. I will start doing exercise and lifestyle modification. Every night we used to plan. But next morning, what happens? When you get up in the morning, okay, fine. My body laughs at my idea. Because this is the nature we have developed in some. It's not that lifestyle medicine is not a magic wand that you can turn around and everything will be normal. But definitely if you use it strictly, at least 5 days a week, 2 days are with you, you can enjoy. If you follow 5 days a week, you are going to control good amount of management so that your medication is reduced. Everyone knows medicine has a side effect. Still. Now, what are the things? The basic, in the first slide, second slide I showed, we'll be talking about the physical activity, the exercise. What are the pillars actually for the lifestyle management? Exercise, diet, stress management, dependency management. These are the basic 4 pillars of lifestyle medicine. If you have a good control on it, you can modify anything which you want. Now, everyone knows physical activity, exercise is good for health. But when we are talking about the lifestyle medicine, I'll be pointing on the pathophysiology of that. Everyone knows doing exercise will maintain your weight. If you remember, in this slide, I was talking about overweight and obesity. Do you know the difference between most of us don't know the difference about overweight and obesity? Overweight is above your normal weight, but it doesn't say you are obese. Obesity is a clinical thing which we use for metabolic disorders, especially weight management. A weightlifter, a bodybuilder is 100% overweight, but they doesn't have a fat in their body. So when we talk about fat, when we talk about metabolic disorder, when clinically, when we are talking about, we are taking obesity into consideration, and lifestyle medicine focus mainly on obesity. Okay, so here I'm just penning it, maintains the weight. Now relaxes muscles. Everyone knows if you do exercise, your muscles will relax. So what is the benefit of your relaxed muscles? Every vascular arrangement in our body is enveloped inside the muscles. If you have relaxed muscles, there will be less compression on the arteries and vascular walls. If you have less vascular compression, the arterial tension will reduce. If there is less reduced arterial tension, the blood pressure will come down. Okay. Now, doing exercise increases endorphins. Now, what are endorphins? There are a lot of hormones which is released by brain. I'm not going into details, but I'm giving you simple pinpoints. Endorphins are hormones released from brain, which controls your mood, controls your stress level, controls your impact to the external stimulus. Actually, what it does, endorphins are opioid receptors. It interacts with the opioid receptors. What is opioid receptors? Opioid receptors are the receptors which catch the pain, which catch the stress. And these two, the pain and stress, when interacted, your body reacts to a different level. The first thing which happens, your blood pressure goes up. So if you do your exercise, physical exercise will increase the level of endorphins. If endorphins are high, your pain control, your stress control will be more efficient. If they are controlled, your muscles will be more relaxed. Everything is connected. Now, if you have improved stress, if you have improved pain management, you will have a good sleep. What is a good sleep? We will talk about the sleep in next slide, but you will have a good sleep. The definition of a good sleep is doesn't matter whether you sleep for 6 hours or 8 hours. Even 4 hours of sleep is good, but you should have a sound sleep. Means when you get up after a sleep, you should be fresh. You don't want to go back to sleep. If that is the case, that means your sleep is sound sleep. Now, once you have increased endorphins, once you have relaxed muscles, once you have good sleep, your mental relaxation is at par. Once your mental relaxation is there, Doc Sudhin, I think, are you asking any questions? So we can take the questions in the later at the end. Let me finish this.
We can ask the question at the end, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So once your endorphins are more, once your sleep is good, you have a mental relaxation. And definitely, once you have a mental relaxation, the entire muscular body is relaxed. Now, this combination above, starting from your weight, starting from arterial hypertension, endorphin, sound sleep, mental relaxation, physical relaxation, everything gives you increased stamina. Now, what is the stamina? Stamina and excess strength. There is a lot of difference. Many of them confuse. What is stamina? What is strength? But simple training. Stamina is the endurance. How much your heart, being a medical professional, we should not talk about the exercise physiology, but I'm talking about the cardiovascular stamina. Means how much load your heart can take for a longer time. If you have a good stamina, your heart rate will reduce. Okay. Once your heart rate reduces, the filtration improves. We are talking about filtrations. Filtration, and one is the alveolar filtration, so that your carbon dioxide is gone and oxygen has increased. The second component, everyone knows, most of these are people know about it, but we will be talking about this mainly. The components of exercise. There are 4 basic components of exercise: stamina, strength, flexibility, and endurance. Now, when we talk about all these, but basically when we are talking about lifestyle medicine, we will be talking about cardio stamina exercise. That is basically focused on your heart rate. There are a lot of exercises, but what we talk, walking. Now, what type of walking? Brisk walk or a very fast walk? Jogging, swimming, cycling, elliptical machine, means the stationary cycle, elliptical cycle. Why we are talking about these? There are a lot of cardio exercises. Skipping is also there, squash playing is also there. But when we are talking about the exercise, we are talking about these, mainly focusing on these. Because when we talk about the heart rate, there should be a limit. You might have noticed when you prescribe any of your patient, okay, you have diabetes, if you are obese, or if you have high cholesterol, please do exercise for 1 hour daily. Patient is following your instruction. But ultimately patient comes back and says, doc, you have suggested me for walking for every day, 1 hour, I'm doing it. But my sugar level is not coming down. My cholesterol level is not coming down. I'm not losing weight. That means there is something wrong, either in your hand or patient's hand. Something is going wrong. Now, what is that wrong thing? Actually, when we talk about exercise physiology, especially when we talk about the lifestyle medicine, we have to prescribe properly how to do an exercise. Now, that's why there is a training heart zone or exercise heart zone. There are other terms also, exercise target heart zone. Is how much you should achieve during an exercise. First of all, what is exercise? Exercise is minimum 30 minutes of continuous effort, physical effort or physical activity in a systematic manner. Maybe many of them in the housewives, they are walking throughout the day in their house. They maybe go walking throughout the day 5 to 6 kilometers. But that is not a perfect thing. It has to be minimum 30 minutes continuous. And the stretch where you are walking should be straight for 200 meters at least. That's why wherever if you see there are track zone or what do you call the field, the track field, the straight line is almost 200, more than 200 meters at one stretch. That is just because this gives you the physical activity at par. Now, how to calculate the training heart zone? I've given you, it's on the screen. Simple understanding, 220. What is 220? 220 is the maximum heartbeat a person can achieve. After 220, there will be a fibrillation. I'm talking about the normal person. I'm not talking about a patient. Patient will have a fibrillation after 180. But when we are talking about normal person, physically fit, mentally fit, no problem, that 220 heart rate. 220 minus age. Suppose a person is age of 30, means 220 minus 30, it comes to 190. Minus 30 is the maximum heart rate you can achieve. Now, when there is a maximum heart rate, there should be minimum also. From maximum heart rate minus 30, that will be the minimum heart rate. That means a person of 30 years of age should do an exercise with the heart rate between 190 to 160. Means if a person is doing any exercise, he will get maximum benefit if his heart rate or her heart rate is above 160. Between 190 to 160. Then only the individual will get the benefit. Otherwise, you are wasting your time. For the namesake of exercise, you are doing definitely good. But you are not actually getting the better benefit. For benefit, you have to stick in that. And minimum in that range, you have to be 20 minutes there. It takes 20 minutes to be reaching that peak. Once you reach there, maintain it for at least 10 minutes. That's why minimum 30 minutes is required. Any activity. Old school says 1 hour of exercise. Then it came to 45 minutes of exercise. Now what we are talking is the latest thing which American College of Lifestyle Medicine is practicing for last 10 years. I'm associated with them for last 8 years. So this is the actual exercise parameter. Normal or pre-hypertensive patients, you can use this. But if you have any patient, if you are prescribing any patient an exercise and he is a known diabetic, if he is known hypertensive, or he is controlled but on medication, then there will be more 130 minus. In the maximum rate, what we were saying, 190, it should be 160. Then minus 30, 130. But if the patient is taking any medicine, if the patient is a cardiac patient, has angioplasty, then you have to monitor, because that assessment is completely different, because that assessment goes into cardiac rehabilitation pattern. That is not lifestyle medicine. That is a part of lifestyle medicine, but controlled and monitored closely by a physician. Right? Now, when we talk about the diet, the secondary pillar, the second pillar, the important pillar is the diet. What is diet? It has to be have two important nutrition, the macro and the micro. What are macro? Those nutrients which we use more, like vitamins. What are micro? Which we use less, like minerals. We eat all the minerals, we eat all the vitamins, but vitamins we require more, minerals we require less. But both are important. Without these two, you cannot have a good nutrition. Now, tocopherols, cobalamin, you know all the medical terms about it, vitamin E, vitamin B12, or vitamin B6, or vitamin C, whatever you will say. These are the vitamins, the macro. These at least you should have, these four you should have at least. Micronutrients, the minerals, you should have at least 4 minerals, but the more important are magnesium and chromium. Because we are talking today about the metabolic disorder. These two have important role to play in metabolic disorders. The polyphenols. What are polyphenols? These are antioxidants. We require antioxidants. Now, diet and calories. What are the diet? What are the calories? The diet is what we eat, and calories, how much energy we are getting from that particular diet. Maybe most of you know or may be aware of these calorie sheet. But basically, for simple understanding, I will tell you, one bowl of rice has approximately 250 calories in it. One chapati, standard size of chapati, has 60 calories. 1 cup of tea with milk and sugar has around 45 calories. One boiled egg is approximately 70-75 calories. These are the basic food which we eat daily. One bowl of dal, the cereals, it's 150. One bowl of vegetables, cooked vegetables, in 150. One plate of raw salad has 100. So these are the basic food which we eat daily. So you have to monitor what you are eating, how much you are getting. Right? So when we are talking about diet and calories, it should be focused mainly on cortisols and neuropeptides. What are cortisols? Cortisols are the hormone receptors. There are a lot of food, whether it is a vegetable, whether it is a animal product, which promotes the hormone reception. Then there are hormone receptors these the items, whatever you are eating, whether it is a macronutrient or micronutrient, it will be absorbed to formation of a particular hormone. Neuropeptides. Neuropeptides already, you know what is peptide. Peptide is a protein. What is neuro? Neuro stands for nervous system. But when we are talking about the neuropeptide, we are talking about the food element which we take it from the food. Again, whether it is a vegetable kingdom, animal kingdom, whatever it is. But these foods are basically promoters of the hormones. These hormones, especially when we talk about the metabolic disorders, it increases or decreases the insulin resistance. Everyone knows about the insulin and glucagon mechanism. They are working as a feedback mechanism to each other. So what are the basic rules of nutrition? Maximum, think what we should, maximum salt, the common salt we should take is 1 teaspoon per day, each individual. Then we talk about the omega 3, 6, 9, whatever you want. But basically, we require omega 3. There are 3 types of omega 3. ALA, then DHA, then EPA. So alpha linolenic acid, the ALA, is mainly coming from the vegetable products. All the vegetables we are getting from that. But mainly the DHA and EPA, the docosahexaenic acid or eicosapentaenic acid, these two are coming from the animal product. American College of Lifestyle Medicine, along with American Heart Association, they have made a guideline. If you want to get omega-3, especially DHA and EPA, you should be eating fish. What fish? Not what we eat in river fish or freshwater fish. It should be cold water fish, like salmon, mackerel, herring, sardines, tuna, lake trout. These are having high fat in their body. And this high fat gives you omega-3, DHA and EPA. Very important for your heart. Very important to regulate your HDL. Very important to regulate your LDL. Especially LDL. But due to this omega-3, your liver is capable of converting LDL to HDL. Everyone knows. We said 65% of the cholesterol is made by our body. That is made a good cholesterol. Now, when we talk about the metabolic disorder, we are basically focusing on 2 dietary regimes. One is DASH, second is hypoglycemic. I hope everyone knows what is DASH, dietary approach to stop hypertension. But we are clubbing all together. Now, what we are saying, increase 1 vegetable every serving, means every meal, whether it is a breakfast, lunch or dinner, you should eat 1 vegetable. You will get a protein, vegetable protein. If you want to focus on vegetable protein, you can go for the soya foods. Increase 1 to 2 servings of fruit, especially when we are talking about the fruit, the high rich in potassium. We should have nuts, seeds, beans, which contains magnesium. What are the foods? Common food. There are a lot of foods which are rich in potassium, but generally we talk about the citrus fruit. Orange. See, I'm using a citrus word, but I'm giving you a specific names. All citrus fruit are rich in potassium, but the examples I'm saying are higher in potassium. Not all citrus fruit has higher levels of potassium. Orange has high, grapefruit has high, papaya is also high. This doesn't come into citrus. Papaya is also high. Banana is also high. What type of banana? The spotted skin banana. If you have a spotted skin banana, that indicates the potassium level in that banana and that particular moment is high. Like seeds and nuts, when we are talking about that, almonds, hazelnut, walnut, these are nuts which are high in magnesium. If we talk about the seeds Then we can talk about chia seeds, sunflower seeds. These are seeds which are rich in omega-3 also and magnesium also. Beans like soya bean and saturated fat. When we talk about saturated fat, it has to be reduced. When we are talking about fat, we are basically talking about the saturated food. If you are talking about the vegetable product, you should not go for a palm oil. You should go for a PUFA, polyunsaturated fatty acids. You should go for that. Olive oil, sunflower oil, canola oil. These are good oils. When we are talking about the animal fat, then you have to reduce red meat, the high fat dairy products. The trans fat which we are using in margarines or creams in the pastries, we are eating organ meats which are actually good in cholesterol. It has omega also, but it also contains lot of LDL. So there is a very controversial food material which everyone eats, the egg. Till 5 years back, or you can say 6 to 7 years back, everyone, all the doctors used to say, don't eat egg if you have a cholesterol. Even when I am into this lifestyle medicine for last 20 years. When I say eat egg, whole egg, no problem, eat the yolk also. There was controversy. There was always a debate. Then it was said, the study also showed, definitely egg yolk has more cholesterol, but it also has omega-3. It also has other important fatty acids. It also has minerals. It also has vitamins. So if you are getting a lot of good things from the yolk, it's not a problem if you take an egg, whole egg, every day. But the best thing is one egg at least, not more than that daily. The fruit juices. We say eat a fruit, don't drink a fruit. Simply, even if you say I'm preparing juice at home, no. Because when you prepare a juice from the fruit, raw fruit, then what happens? The glycemic index increases. What is glycemic index? The sweet index. The insulin resistance and glucagon feed mechanism works on this glucose sweet index, that is the glycemic index, which produces the glycemic load on the blood. Many of the cases you might have seen, we say, okay, don't eat, many of the old practitioners may say, if you're diabetic, don't eat watermelon. Don't eat pineapple. But why? If you're talking about watermelon, it has a high glycemic index. But the same time, it has a very low glycemic load. Means it is very sweet. For a simple understanding, it is very sweet. Definitely, the sweet index is the glycemic index. But it doesn't give a big impact to the blood. At the same time, it is rich in potassium. It's rich in minerals, which is good for blood pressure, good for cardiovascular health. So reduce fruit juices. Carbonated drinks. Everyone knows there are a lot of factors, but when we talk about soft drinks or any carbonated drinks in lifestyle medicine, because of the calcium loss. If you drink carbonated drink, the calcium loss will be more. The caffeine intake, tea, coffee, whatever you say. Green tea is apart from this. Green tea is rich in antioxidants. When you process that green tea into a regular tea, the antioxidant reduces and the caffeine increases. Again, caffeine reduces your calcium. Caffeine increases the interaction, the opioid interaction. The pain interaction is reduced. The pain will be more. Whenever there is inflammation, there will be more inflammation. Caffeine intake should be reduced. Now, these are the common food you can search anywhere. Now, when we talk about the stress management, the third basic pillar of lifestyle medicine is the stress management. When we talk about stress management, there are two basic factors to reduce your stress to have a good sleep hygiene. Now, initially I also have told, if you do exercise, your endorphin level goes up. If your endorphin level goes up, your stress reduces. If your stress reduces, you are having a good sleep. Now, this exercise should be an active form of exercise, like whatever we mentioned in the exercise slide. Walking, running, jogging, swimming. But mind it, if you know swimming, it's very good. If you know how to play squash, it's very good. It covers swimming and squash. These are two exercises or fun games, whatever you can say. Covers all the components of exercise, whether it is strength, stamina, flexibility. All components. All other exercises are basically focused on particular component and others are less. But these two, swimming and squash playing, are including all the components at each equal level. So this type of active exercise will increase the endorphins. Yoga, the passive form, it has a deep impact, relaxes your mind. Again, once your mind is relaxed, your physical muscular body is relaxed. Once the physical muscular body is relaxed, your arterial tension gets relaxed. Once your arterial tension gets relaxed, you have a reduced blood pressure. Everything is connected. Now, third, the breathing techniques. There are basically 14 types of breathing techniques. But broadly speaking, we divide into two parts, active breathing and passive breathing. What is active breathing? Active breathing covers actually the forceful breathing, what we do. When you have, I will give you an example. When you have your blood pressure high, you can reduce it very efficiently with the breathing exercise. Drink a glass of water, slightly colder water than the room temperature. Sit down properly. Breathe from your nose. You have to blow out from your mouth, forceful blowout. But breathing should be from nose. Inhale properly, fill up your stomach. I'm saying stomach because the stomach, once you reach more, if you are focusing on your stomach, your lungs are filled up properly. Then forceful throw out. If you throw out all the air, it is forcibly thrown out. The carbon dioxide, which is creating heat in your blood, is exchanged with your lungs as thrown out as a heat. When the heat is thrown out, the oxygen are absorbed more. This is a very practical thing. When your blood pressure goes up, you can do this and practice it. But this has to be done for 5 minutes. Second, passive breathing. This is a shallow breathing, deep shallow breathing. This basically works for stress management. When we are talking to reduce your stress, it's a very practical thing. Again, suppose if you have a very severe headache, go and pass your urine, drink a cold water, sit down properly, close your eyes, breathe from your nose very slowly. Fill up your body. Your stomach is filled, blow out from your mouth very slowly. Means if breathe in to fill up, breathe in takes 3 seconds, breathe out should be more than 6 seconds. This is one respiration. Breathe in, breathe out is one respiration. So breathe in, if it is slow, the breathe out should be double slower than that. Means you have to empty completely. Then again breathe in from your nose slowly, fill up and breathe out. This has to be done for 5 minutes. If you do this, severe headache without the medication will reduce 50%. That is for sure. You have to practice this, then only you can achieve. But initially when you are having, so if you are not practiced, if you are new doing exercise for a passive breathing, it may feel for a minute or two that when you are breathing in and slowly you are blowing out, your head and mind will have some hot feeling sensation, tinkling sensation will be there. If that is there, that means that there is congestion in the blood and there is more carbon dioxide trapped inside, right? So that reduces your stress. When you have reduced stress, then you should maintain a sleep hygiene. What is sleep hygiene? There are a lot of sleep hygiene itself is a complete subject, but I will give you three simple basic tips to maintain your hygiene. Your bed should always be used for a sleeping purpose, not for studying, not for anything, not for enjoying. Bed should be only used for sleeping. Number two, whenever you are going for a bed, always eat a lighter dinner or lighter food before that. Pass urine, wash your face, drink a glass of water, but don't drink a full glass of water. Slightly colder water, half a glass of water, so that you should not get up after sleep for urine. Third thing, have a good lit light, dim lit. Always the light should be dim. It should not be very dark. It should not be very difficult to your eyes. Because even if you close your eyes, if the light is strong, your eyes will see through the membrane, through the eyelids. So it should be dim lit. If you basically maintain these three parameters, your sleep hygiene will improve. Sleep hygiene is a regular practice if you do. It will not improve in a day. Right? The fourth, the important part, the dependency management. Now, when we are talking about dependency management, there are two basic things, tobacco and alcohol. When we are talking about tobacco, it has two things, the oral tobacco and the smoking. Both are same. Only difference being is oral tobacco you chew, smoking you fire up. That's the difference. But definitely there is a difference in the impact in the body. Basic difference is oral tobacco are more cancerous on the oral cavities and trachea, food pipe, throat. But when you talk about smoking, it causes cancer of every part, whether it is oral, whether it is windpipe, whether it is lungs, whether it is liver, whether it is pancreas, it affects everywhere, even it impacts blood cancers. So smoking is that hazardous. But what actually tobacco does, when you eat tobacco or smoke, the blood pressure immediately rises. You know, there are more than 4,000 chemicals, odd chemicals, in 100 gram of tobacco. Again, dependency is itself a big subject. 4,000 chemicals, listed chemicals, proved in laboratory. Out of that, 220 chemicals are fatal. It creates a problem. 40 are carcinogenic. See, so much of food, that poison you are taking inside. Common ailments. Now, it reduces the HDL. Actually, it increases the LDL. Once the LDL increases, once the blood pressure increases, there is friction. Due to increased blood pressure, there is friction in the blood vessel. And if you have high LDL, so high LDL will increase the triglyceride. Triglyceride and LDL both go together. Once LDL is high, your triglyceride will start increasing. When these two come together, the viscosity of blood will increase. The plaque formation will be more. And blood pressure is increasing the friction in the blood vessel walls. Friction means damage. Once there is damage, the plaque, plaque is formed and based on deposited on the damaged part. It creates a fitting or a plaque. Thus, obstruction creates an obstruction. It's a complete mechanism. Now, once it is done, your blood pressure goes up, your LDL increases, HDL reduces, and it damages vessels, all creates the heart problems. So you should be very careful about the tobacco. Now, alcohol. See, when we talk about lifestyle medicine, we simply say no to tobacco, but we say avoid or limit alcohol. Why we are saying limit alcohol and no to tobacco? Because tobacco doesn't have anything good, or everything whatever the tobacco has is a bad and has a bad impact on the body. But alcohol has something good in it. But it's not that, okay, the lifestyle specialist has said alcohol is a little bit good, so those who are not drinking will start drinking. Don't do that. Alcohol, it's only, I'm saying good for those who are taking, but I have also used the word limit. What is that limit? And what actually alcohol does? Alcohol increases the metabolism. That is a good thing. Alcohol increases the weight. Again, that is a good thing. But the bad part of that is alcohol also increases the fat, means increases the obesity. Right? It increases the blood pressure. Now, there are two patterns of blood pressure if you talk about alcohol. It increases blood pressure. When we are talking about the lifestyle medicine, the metabolic disorders, we are also talking about blood pressure. We should reduce our blood pressure to reduce the complications. But also, when you require to increase your blood pressure immediately, alcohol is the pattern. That's the reason our soldiers or worldwide, the defense people, those who are working in high altitudes or the snowy areas, they are given rum. They are given brandies. Not as to means hangover, just to cope the cold. That helps to create a higher heart rate. If your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure will be little high. Your body will be resistant in feeling the cold. Then the bad part, it decreases the pancreatic function. And everyone knows pancreas has an important role for metabolic all syndrome, whether it is insulin, whether it is glucagon. Everyone has studied alpha cells and beta cells. But when we talk about lifestyle medicine, we talk about insulin and glucagon, not about the alpha and beta. Both are same. Insulin comes from alpha, this comes from beta. Doesn't matter. But when we talk about the decreased pancreatic function, we have to be very cautious. Then it decreases the liver function. Now, what is the role of liver in metabolic disorders? I've already said three parts. Number one, it modifies the bad cholesterol, the LDL, to good cholesterol, the HDL. It forms 65% of the cholesterol is made by liver itself. Right? Now, many precursors of the hormones are created by liver. Omega-3 is being actually utilized by liver in different formats to promote the metabolism. So how to limit it? Limit is very simple. If you are, what is the limit? Actually, the question should be, what is the limit? Lifestyle medicine says those who are drinkers should not go more than 1 peg a day. Number two, they should dilute more into it. But dilution should be only with plain water, not with anything else. I'm not going into details. Then you should consume it in a longer period. Don't drink at a faster period. If you want to use in a good way, the first point number one, increases metabolism. If you want to increase your metabolism in your favor, and if you are alcoholic, you should be using this. Always eat bland food along with the drink. Bland means not very spicy, not very hot food. It should be bland. The best way, if you those who are regular drinkers, eat a banana before going to drink. That will reduce the absorption. Because the drinkers, the regular drinkers, are actually having a pattern of drink. they are drinking in the stress, they are drinking in a fashion. They are far beyond the benefits and the loss. They made an habit. So reduce that. So these are the patterns, right? Okay, this is the last slide. So whatever we say, whatever you prescribe your patient, simply we say, if you have an exercise machine at home, very good. If you don't have, if you want to go join a gym, good. But there is no need for an excuse. Simply walking is good enough. But how? I will again review all the points. I'm giving you 5 points, the main 5 points for the lifestyle medicine. Number 1, do an exercise daily for at least 30 minutes. But if you are using a 30 minutes exercise, if you are on medication, non-medication, I have already told about the training art zone. But at an average, I'm telling you, keep your heart rate between 150 to 120. I'm clubbing both. Your heart rate should not increase more than 150. Your heart rate should not be below 120. Right? So in the higher end gyms, there are plug points. If you are pinning it in a finger point, then your heart rate is given in the real time. You may see at the gym, if you're running it, the heart rate is being shown. How heart rate is being shown if you are not touching anything on the body? If nothing is connected from your body to the machine. The simple thing, it's a cheat. Start the machine. If you're talking about treadmill, start the treadmill. Step aside. Don't be on the treadmill. You will see it will show your heart rate. You are outside the treadmill, it will show the heart rate. So heart rate is actually in the higher gym, higher end treadmills, which connects your body to the machine, which takes the real heart rate. So for general walkers, those who are going walking outside, mark a distance of 1 kilometer. Finish, count your pulse for 1 kilometer. It should be not more than 12 minutes. Not more than 12 minutes. In total, for a summary, 30 minutes, and in 30 minutes, you should minimum complete 3 kilometers. If you manage this, 3 kilometers in 30 minutes, you will be above 120. Right? Number 2 point. Always have a balanced diet. Balance means you should have at least 1 vegetable serving in each meal. You should have at least 1 fruit at least once a day. This is normal. When we are talking about reversal or managing a chronic disease, whatever I said, it has to be 1 vegetable every meal, 2 vegetables at least a day. Then reduce salt. Go for a low sodium salt. Even pickles. We Indians are very fond of pickles. You know, 1 piece of a pickle, any pickle you name, 1 piece of a pickle is 3 times more condensed salt it should have. What is the limit, maximum limit? 1 teaspoon a day. Means 1 gram. And if you take a pickle, it will be around 2.5 to 2.7 grams a piece. That condense of salt. If you want to do a practical thing, eat pickle. First, don't eat pickle for 3 days. After 3 days, monitor your blood pressure for 2 days. Then start eating your food along with pickle thrice a day. Then after 3 days, check your blood pressure. Your blood pressure will be more. Mainly the systolic will go more. Why? Because there will be more retention of the water fluid. If water is retented more, then there will be more pressure in the ventricular pumping out. There the systolic will be going more. Right? 3rd point. Always do a stress management. At least breathing exercise. At least the second part which I talk about, the passive breathing, the shallow breathing for 5 minutes. I spoke about 14 exercises, but I'm giving you one tip only: shallow breathing for 5 minutes, at least once a day, preferably before going to bed. That will give you a good sleep. Fourth, if you are a regular smoker or user of a tobacco, or I'm not talking about you or all your patients also, so then you should tell them to avoid these. Right? Fifth point, monitor your vitals every day at least once. Make a chart, particular chart, so that whatever lifestyle modification you are doing, you should see the quantitative result on your vitals. The easiest thing to do is the vital. If you want to monitor your blood sugar, that monitoring should be done, I would suggest, after 15 days of complete, regular, religiously followed lifestyle management. After 15 days, then you can start monitoring. You will find the difference in your whatever medication you are doing. Whatever if you are not taking any medicine, you can do that, but you will find the difference in that. Then every 3 months, in that, if you're talking about sugar, every 3 months you will be doing your glycated hemoglobin, HbA1c. You should monitor that. These 5 parameters, if you follow for yourself and for your patient, the chronic patients, you will see the result. The patient will be very happy with you, because I have used for last 20 years. I've seen the results. When it's very difficult, because now people are understanding homeopathy is a very good thing. Now people are using it. But last 20 years back, when we started practicing, I'm practicing for last 22 years. So that time, to bring a patient from modern medicine to homeopathy, it was a very difficult thing. When I was doing lifestyle medicine, I was always having a debate with the modern medicine specialist. But ultimately they found, yeah, this works. Now this is being used in all European medical colleges. We in India don't have lifestyle medicine in our curriculum. But this is being used in the medical curriculum abroad. All the hospitals are using it. Now, there was a word corporate wellness, because 80% of the earning members are in the corporates. So they started using this lifestyle medicine in the corporates to promote it. There are a lot of factors. If you give, it's a simple stick and carrot. If you use a stick and carrot philosophy, the patient will do, the individual will do. Right? That's for today. Thank you so much. If you want, someone want to ask anything, you can ask.
So that was a wonderful session, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Sir, can we go for some doubts, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, there are many queries from the participant. This query is from Dr. Sangeeta. What is your opinion about herbal products like juices and powders given in herbal content centers?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I said. See, when we talk about all the pharmaceutical things or nutraceuticals, rather to use nutraceutical things. Nutraceuticals are basically products marketed by the pharmaceuticals itself. So they have to promote something. So they are giving herbal content, food or supplements, but actually lifestyle medicine doesn't rule on it. They simply say, that's why I said, eat a fruit, don't drink a fruit. Why to go for a artificial thing which you can eat? Because once I've already said, if you make a juice, the glycemic index will increase. So unless you know what is the glycemic index and what is the glycemic load, you should not be going into it. That is the reason. Do you know the statins, to anti-cholesterol? Everyone knows about the statins, anti-cholesterol. Anti-cholesterol, once you start anti-cholesterol, if the patient is using anti-cholesterol for a long time, it turns to be a diabetic patient. It's a study. Nobody is saying, it's a study. So that's why lifestyle medicine never says to go for a statin. So statin has a good thing, but has very bad things along with it. So that's why herbal products. See, if you are using any herbal, even our products, the homeopathic mother tinctures are herbal only, but it's an extract. But we are using in minimum dose. We are not using in a quantity, right? So it
Yes,
should
sir.
be
Yes.
used natural way as much as you can. Yes, please.
Okay. So this question is from Dr. Rajapriya. Can you please elaborate that eating of banana before alcohol reduces the absorption of the alcohols?
Right. I was wondering that someone should ask this question, right? See, banana, when you have eating a banana has a lot of chemicals, especially the pectin. Pectin, when once you are eating banana, the pectin levels, it creates a lining on the acid wall, the gastric wall. When there is an lining on the acidic wall, the alcohol, what is alcohol? Alcohol, when you put alcohol in anything, it creates a burning sensation. Have you dropped alcohol? Have you dropped 60 OP in your hand? The reverse of the hand. You will feel cold, but if you rub it, it will start feeling hot. It actually erodes. And when there is an acid nature in your gastric region, if you are putting more alcohol in it, there will be more damage to the lining. So that's why pectin is a chemical element in banana which creates lining and reduces the interaction between acid and alcohol. That's the reason.
Okay.
That's the reason absorption goes down.
Okay.
Yeah.
This question is from Dr. Kripa sir. Lifestyle disease, I mean, there is also problem with overeating. How can we manage it, sir?
Yeah, that's a good question. See, eating, when there are two types of eating when you talk about. One, you eat to satisfy your hunger. Second, you eat to satisfy your need. No, hunger cannot be treated. You need, if there may be many reasons, many hormonal or medical reasons why you're having too much of hunger. If that cause is being treated, that hunger will reduce. But still, if you feel more hungry, many people have a habit of eating more, and they are cautious about their health, they are cautious about your weight, then they should do one thing, very simple thing. Whatever you are eating, eat half plate of your food as a salad. What is salad? Salad has very less calories, but it will give you a full sense of your stomach. Once your stomach is full, you'll feel less hungry. Means you're already satisfied with your hunger, but the calorie is very less. That's why weight
Yes.
management, we simply say half plate should be raw salad. Rest half, whatever you want. Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. So this query is from Dr. Satya. Sir, I read that potassium-rich diet can eliminate sodium, so BP goes down. Since potassium counteracts the action of sodium, sir, is it true?
Yeah. See, when we talk about potassium, you know the angiotensin mechanism, which is running in the adrenal gland. So what happens when you have a conversion from angiotensin 1 to 2, potassium helps a lot to reduce the sodium. If sodium binding is less, there will be less water content in your body. When there is less water content in your body, the volume of the blood will be normal. If you reduce your sodium, reduce your potassium, and you are not in, even if you are not increasing the sodium part, sodium will always retain water in your body. And if you are not able to excrete it, again in excretion, in angiotensin 1 to conversion, there is ADH also formed. ADH is also playing a role in that. ADH, when ADH is playing a role, that means it is excreting the extra water from your, extra fluid from your blood. So that is direct in link with, if you go through a complete mechanism, you will find out. These are against each other, potassium and sodium. Once you enrich potassium, sodium will go down, or sodium will have a less interference in the mechanism. Yes, please.
Okay. So this is query from a doctor. Can we suggest ORS and electrol in diabetic people and hypertensive patients also?
Of course, yes. Why not? See, electrolytes are minerals. It is a balanced potassium, balanced sodium along with other minerals. So whenever it is required, why you are using, first of all, why the question is why you want to use our ORS? Because there is a case of dehydration. That is what you wanted to address. If you are addressing a dehydration, you need supplement. And in dehydration, it's not only the fluid is going out. Along with the fluid, all the electrolytes, the minerals are going out. So definitely you can use electrolytes, the ORS. But rather I would suggest instead of that, you can practice the natural ORS. Use a normal glass of water, normal room temperature, half of lemon, use black salt or any rock salt, use brown sugar. That will give you more impact than the ORS, ready-made ORS, right?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So this is a question from Dr. Reshma. Can PCOD and thyroid patients take soy products?
See, if you are taking Eltroxin, if you are taking a thyroid, synthetic thyroid, then you should avoid soya products, as well as you should provide all the cruciferous products also. You should, because there will be interference between the calcium channel, potassium. Again, there will be more, and along with that, when soya is coming into picture, then omegas will be not used. It will convert into omega-9. So that will be a problematic thing for it. But still, the studies are going on. It's not very hard and fast to not to use it. If the person is allergic, no, not all the patients are allergic to soya. So if you are not allergic, if you don't have any other complaints apart from the thyroidmegaly, then you can take it.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a question from a Dr. Didi. Is potassium-rich fruits contraindicated in patients with poor kidney functioning?
Yeah. See, this is a good question, but it should be taken into other thing. See, kidney disease, all the kidney disorders, especially the renal failures, and when there is a disturbed kidney filtrations. When we talk about potassium, to reduce potassium, especially when we are talking about the potassium, we are talking about the citrus fruit, the oranges. Now, I have specified orange and grapefruit into the citrus, but there are a lot of citrus fruit. But I have specified orange and this. When you have kidney problems, instead of orange, you can go for a Mandarins. Mandarins are also a type of orange, but they are very less in potassium. Very well balanced with ascorbic acid. Other citrus fruit are more in citric acid, but these orange, grapefruit, these are more into ascorbic acid. So when you are using this, the potassium levels will go down, and it will help. But definitely it doesn't mean you can take, and you should take all potassium rich food daily. But for banana, you can take a banana daily without any problem.
Okay, sir. Sir, this is a question from Dr. Hafizood. Can you please explain the useful and harmful effects of green tea, sir?
Pardon?
Green tea, sir. Useful and harmful effects of green tea, sir.
See, there is nothing side effect of a green tea. But definitely green tea is rich in antioxidants. But if you alter a green tea, now in the market you will see many flavors, many varieties of green tea are coming. But green tea, actual green tea is a green tea. It is rich in antioxidant, which is rich in phytanols. Phytanols are what? These are again the antioxidants only, which actually reduces the oxidation product. Any oxidation mechanism which is going in the blood after the metabolism, it will reduce it. So it will, whatever you eat will be absorbed. Now, how to use a green tea? Whether many people use a green tea before their meal, many use after the meal. So it doesn't matter whether you take it before or after. There is no side effect on it. But definitely, if you add something which is not, if you don't have a knowledge, proper knowledge, you should not add anything along with the green tea.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So this is a question from Dr. Anu Matthews. What is your opinion about potassium, omega-3 and other supplements like this? Yes, sir. Like that cod liver oil tablets that are available in the market.
That's what I'm saying. Because see, we are living in India, right? So India,
Yes,
whatever the marine food you get, whatever fish you get, will not be that rich in fat. So the omega-3 is very rich in the fatty fish. Fatty fish generally are mackerels, salmons, sardines. These are the main majority of fish from the colder areas. These are rich. So if you're not getting that, so you can go for a cod liver oil also. Definitely that supplement is good, not bad. But if you get an opportunity to have a natural food, you should prefer it.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So this is a query from many doctors. There are many salts like black salt, pink salt, table salt, rock salt. Which salt is advised to the patients? Sir?
See, the basic thing when we talk about anything about the salt, we are either talking about the common salt which we eat, the white salt, which common salt, table salt, whatever you can say, and other salts, black salt, pink salt, rock salt, Himalayan salt, sea salt. Actually, these salts are rich in potassium and less in sodium. That's why anything you want, any flavor you can use, either sea salt, rock salt, black salt, pink salt, all are potassium based salts. They're less in, definitely they have sodium, but sodium is less, potassium is high. Common salt has more into sodium.
Okay. So this is a question from Dr. Seema. Can hypothyroid patients take cod liver oil capsules, sir? It is advised.
Of course, they can. But you have to see if there is any other complications, if the patient is obese, if the cholesterol levels are going up. Generally, it is found, the research has said, the people, those who are suffering from thyroid problem, if they are taking medicine and the metabolism is always disturbed. So this always disturb doesn't means whether you have a lipidemia or maybe you are having a OCDs or maybe you are having any ovarian cyst or any hormonal issues with that. So you have to find out what exactly complication if you have. If you don't have any complication, if you are not obese, definitely you can use it.
Okay, sir. So this is also a query from many doctors about the liters of waters to be consumed in case of renal diseases like kidney stones or chronic renal failure or acute renal failure in those cases.
See, their first thing is how much water we should take each day.
Yes,
Generally, a body requires 1.75 liters to filter your blood. Okay.
Okay.
Now, when we are talking, when we say you have to drink more, that means this 1.75 is already required by your body. So you are not drinking anything extra. What extra you should drink? It should be not less than 3 liters in a day. But the best part, now the question connected to this, the kidney, if the patient has a kidney disease, the best way to drink water is in the sips, not a glass full of water. When you take in sips means, suppose if you are drinking 2 liters, say for an example 2 liters, it should not be 2 liters. Many people do once they get up in the morning after doing their brush, they drink a liter of water. And throughout the day, they are using very less water. They say, okay, 1 liter I have already used in the morning. So only 1 liter is required in a day. No, it's not correct. Actually, it's not correct. So whenever you first 1 glass of water in the morning is good, no problem. But throughout the day, you should be sipping, not a full glass of water. Sipping means small amounts of water, but little colder than the room temperature so that it is absorbed easily. If it is on the room temperature and if you are feeling hot, that even a glass full of water will not quench your thirst. It will fill up your belly, but you will not be satisfied. So not satisfied means what? Your blood is not able to absorb water. So we have to reduce the resistance. We have to increase the absorption of the water. How to increase the absorption? You have to drop down the temperature of the water which you are drinking. Minimum lesser than the room temperature. It will be absorbed fast. And sipping, whatever sip you are taking, it will be immediately absorbed in the blood. It will be filtered out. It will be stored in the urine. There will be no extra pressure. Like if you are drinking a glass, full glass of water, cold water, again it will be absorbed because it is cold, colder than the external temperature. It will immediately be absorbed. But again, it will be a pressure. It will be passing through the kidney. But once it is passing through the kidney, the efferent and efferent arteries which are going into the kidney, coming out after the filtration, there is a back pressure. There will be, the filtration will be weak, and all the essential elements will be passing through it. Already the patient is suffering from the kidney disease. So the best practice is to sip, not to drink a full glass of water at a time.
Okay. So there is one more query from Dr. Heetal Mehta. Since this COVID is affecting more people of uncontrolled diabetes and uncontrolled hypertensive patients, is there anything they have to do with their lifestyle management or like dietary supplements, sir?
Yeah, of course. Whatever we said to discuss today, everything should be followed. So
Okay,
that
is there anything more than that has to be followed in uncontrolled diabetic patients and uncontrolled hypertension?
nothing. This is more than sufficient. And proper medication. Whatever medicine you are giving, it has to be proper. Monitoring has to be proper. That's it. All the parameters we have discussed.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So this is a question from Dr. Hanan. Your advice on PCOS, sir, like lifestyle management and dietary lifestyles.
See, PCOS is again when we are talking about the hormonal disturbances and balances. So actually, it is not coming under the lifestyle medicine. It is a problem with the hormonal balance. Now, if we talk about to manage the hormonal balance, you have to, if you go through the dietary pattern, when we're talking about the first slide in the diet, we were talking about the food which will improve the cortisones.
Okay.
Food will not provide you cortisone, definitely. But food will provide you ingredients which will help the body to produce the cortisones. Once cortisones are there, and along with that, the sex hormones are there, then PCOS will be controlled well. It doesn't say it will cure, it will manage. That's why when we, in the initial, when we are talking about prevention, managing, and reverse. There are three things. We can prevent, we can manage, we can reverse. We can reverse diabetes. If a diabetic type 2 is there, we can definitely reverse it. You can stop the medication. If you are hypertensive on medication, you can reverse it. You can stop the medication. That is reversible. If you have cardiovascular problems, you can reverse it with lifestyle medicine. So there are limitations in few areas where you can reverse, but most of them can be prevented and managed well.
Okay, sir. So many people were requesting the slide of that food which were mentioned, sir. Can you please
Which one? The food one?
Yes, sir.
Sure, I will send it. You can circulate it.
Okay. Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, sir.
Push. Yeah.
Sir, Dr. Deepu, sir. Sir?
Yes, I'm here. Okay.
So can we take some more questions or?
If sir is okay with that, we can go. No problem.
I don't have a problem. I have dedicated full time to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So you can go with that. Okay. Fine.
Okay. Sir, many people are having this query as how to increase HDL.
Good question. See, there is no food. Many are having a myth. If you surf in internet, you will Google down foods to improve your HDL. But actually, it is not. HDL, whatever body our body is working on all the metabolic disorders. So all food which we eat contains a fat. Whether it is a rice grain, a wheat grain, whether it is a red meat or a beef or whatever you say, Everything has fat.
Sir,
Only depends on the quantity of the fat in it. Now, when we eat, it is your body, your liver is making 65% of the cholesterol. When we are talking about 65% of the cholesterol, what we mean, actually we are meaning with the good cholesterol, means liver makes HDL more. It, whatever you from food you are taking LDL, that LDL is converted to HDL by liver, right? So when we have to, basic focus should be, you have to improve the health of your liver. You have to support your liver to function more appropriately. So what are the foods to improve liver health? That is important. But basically, baseline, if you talk about, if you want to improve HDL, in a nutshell, reduce your red meat, reduce your trans fat. Now, trans fat, what is trans fat? I will give you a very simple thing. Do you know the McDonald's and Subway or anything, the Pizza Hut, they are giving you French fries, right?
Yes,
So, but they are practicing, their FDA practice is what? Their FDA practice is they are using a fresh oil to fry the French fries. Okay. Now, after 4 hours, they remove that oil. Fresh oil is again taken. But when we talk about India, if you go to a snack corner, if you are eating any Indian snack, samosa or kachori or pakodi, whatever you are, that kitchen is, once they have put oil into a container, they will start using frying it in that. Once the oil reduces, they will pour into it. They will not remove the oil. And it, most of 90% of the restaurants and food handlers, they are doing the same thing. That same oil, in repeated heating, converts into trans fat. What is trans fat? Which is not digestible by our body. Simple understanding. So we have to avoid trans fat. That is for sure. And you have to intake fruits, which are, especially when we talk about the lipid profile, then grapefruit is very good in it. Grapefruit have a lot of other chemicals. So that is why I'm not going into a lot of, all the topics are different. So, but basically I'm telling you, 2 fruits are very good. Grapefruit and green apple, which very less unlikely you are going to get in India in an open market. Definitely Reliance and other big bazaar, you can get it, or cold storage food supply, you can get it. These are 2 fruits which help very much in cholesterol management. Plus, avoid any fruit which is pulpy. Like banana, when we say, what type of banana is very good? When it is spotted, the skin is spotted. It is very good. Why? Because the potassium is high. When all the minerals are in the boom, we should use that. But the same banana, if you keep it for one more day or 2 more days, it becomes pulpy. That pulpy increases the triglyceride. Again, when triglyceride is more, LDL will be more, because both are going together. So same way, if you are eating mango, like old school, I remember when I was a kid, when I recently joined the homeopathy college. When we were studying, when my father was diabetic, whenever he goes to a doctor used to say, don't eat rice. And whenever the mango season comes, don't eat mango. If you love mango, only 1 slice of mango, not more than that. Why? Because it increases the diabetes. No, it's not correct. Now I know it is not correct. Actually, mango, the pulpy mango, the sweet mango, increases the triglyceride. Once triglyceride is more, your LDL becomes more. If LDL becomes more, there is overload into your liver to modify into HDL. LDL goes down. If the person is smoking, LDL is reduced because of lot of chemicals. There are 4,000 chemicals. I have already told. 220 are problematic. So you have to improve these factors. Then only you can improve your HDL. And one more thing, cardiovascular exercise. Any cardiovascular exercise, running, jogging, swimming, where your heart rate becomes more, it goes to a peak level of target heart zone, your HDL will be more. HDL can only be increased by exercise, not by any food.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So there is also one more query from many doctors, like, can olive oil be taken in a heated form, or it will be converted into trans fat once it is heated, sir?
Correct, correct. Olive oil is always used for dressing on a raw. If you are cooking any vegetable, you can put olive oil to cook the food, no problem. But if you use the same olive oil for frying purpose, it converts into trans fat.
Okay, sir. Sir, there is also many queries from doctor, like management of lifestyle management in case of thyroid dysfunction, sir.
Mhm. Again, when we talk about thyroid dysfunction, see, there are basically, I told you, lifestyle medicine works on 4 pillars. One is exercise, second is diet management, third is stress management, fourth is dependency, smoking and alcohol. These are the 4 pillars for the lifestyle medicine. Whatever chronic disease you want to address, you should have these 4 pillars in place. So when we are talking about the thyroid problem, so I'll just give you a glimpse. Exercise is the same. Stress management is the same. Passive stress management is more important into it. Exercise means active breathing technique should be not done. The passive breathing exercise should be done more.
Okay.
Definitely, tobacco should be reduced. Alcohol should be in limit, but alcohol is not a problem. But tobacco is a big problem for thyroid problem. Fourth important, the diet. Any diet which is cruciferous, having a cruciferous fruit or vegetable, should be avoided. Now, cruciferous, there is no such scientific research on it, what exactly causes it, but it says it interferes, the cruciferous food interferes the calcium channel and the thyroid, this thyroxine formation. So it reduces that impact. That is the reason cruciferous like broccoli, cabbage, turnip, cauliflower, anything which is cruciferous variety should be avoided. Fish, if you are eating fish, now again there will be a good impact on the fish when we are talking about fish. All the fish we spoke about, the fatty fish, salmons, mackerel, tuna, lake trout, whatever we are talking about, the omega, it should not be taken. The freshwater fish can be taken. Plus, all shellfish like prawns, shrimps, whether it is lobster, crab, should be strictly avoided in a thyroid problem because there will be a lot of interference, hormonal interference with the thyroid, and the thyroid will not be able to metabolize to help metabolize the cholesterol. The triglyceride will jump, the total cholesterol will jump. So that is the basic nutshell I'm giving you just to answer that. Yes, please.
Okay, sir. So this is a question from Dr. Sangeeta. Like, what are the cooking oils to be used in general by all the people?
See, the basic cooking oil we prefer is the PUFA, the polyunsaturated fatty acids. Anything which doesn't contain palm oil, which doesn't contain any alteration in that. If you see, now see, marketing is being done. If you see the oil, the container of the oil, there may be a picture of a sunflower. By sunflower, you can see, okay, it's very good. Sunflower oil, all the doctors say the sunflower oil is very good. But if you turn around and see the ingredient, so you will find it is modified sunflower oil or altered oil or fortified with some other thing or modified palm oil. But still they are included with the sunflower. But that sunflower oil is very bad. So simple understanding olive oil is very good. Plus any vegetable oil which is not altered is good. You can see a lot of brands. I'm not talking about the brands, but what I'm talking about, the PUFA. You can go for MUFA also, monounsaturated fatty acids also. Like olive oil is that into that. Mustard oil is into that. But again, mustard oil should be fresh, raw. What you call the term is there, na, ghani oil. Means coming directly from the mill, not modified or not filtered. That is good. Yeah.
Okay. So there is a query from doctor. What is the most important food item that a diabetic patient and hypertensive patient should avoid?
To avoid, I've already told about the DASH and hypoglycemic approach for the diabetic as well as all the metabolic, including diabetic and hypertension also. The basic thing to avoid should be extra salt. Don't use extra salt. If you are using extra salt, many of the people prefer more salty food. If you are preferring salty food, go for any rock salt or any potassium based salt. And or if you don't like that, because potassium salt while cooking, so some of the people don't like the taste. For dressing on salad, it's good. But if you want to use for a cooking, it should be low sodium salt or sodium light salt. That is very good. And try to avoid all carbonated drinks. I've already said. I'm talking about both for blood pressure as well as the diabetes. And any trans fat or any fried food, animal fat should be avoided. See, butter is good. Ghee is good, but within a limit. Ghee is very rich in vitamin E. Tocopherol is there. But again, if you start using ghee every meal, it will increase your triglyceride as well as your total cholesterol will go up. Again, it will create a problem in metabolism, influencing your cholesterol as well as your blood pressure also. Ultimately, the cardiac health. So this, and plus for diabetic patients, you should eat, even if you want to eat rice, you can eat rice, but I will prefer brown rice or unmilled rice. And you should be eating a lot of dals, but unmilled dals are very good, not milled. Milled are also good, but better the unmilled dals. And prefer kidney beans, but kidney beans and any beans, legumes should be avoided during the night because it is late digested and it gives the metabolic disorder to par. So your whatever you eat will not be utilized in the body. So these are the basic fruit. Basic fruit. When we talk about the best fruit, you can have orange, you can have apple, you can have spotted banana, you can have pineapple. If you have a cardiovascular disorder, you can have a pineapple. Bromelain is very good anti-inflammatory. So it improves, reduces the triglyceride, improves HDL. But there is a problem. If you have LDL problem, it will increase the LDL. But you have to see what exactly you are. If you are insulin dependent, you should avoid watermelon, you should avoid pineapple, you should avoid this, what you call, musk melon, you should avoid sweet melons. These things you have to avoid. And orange is very good in any form, whether it is Mendelian, whether it is other any form. I don't mean raw food or a fruit juice. I'm talking about the raw fruit. But Mendelian, regular orange, both are good. And apple is good. If you get a green apple, the most best thing you can have.
Okay, sir. So this is a query from Dr. Shrina. So your views on using coconut oil for cooking, sir?
See, coconut oil in South India, it's a favorite oil to use it. And definitely, it doesn't say now the studies has showed the wrong thing. Studies have shown a good thing. There is a bad impact or a good impact. But our ancestors were using it and they were very healthy. So, but we cannot compare ourselves with our ancestors. In North India, the same way, like in South, coconut oil is the favorite oil to use for cooking. The same way in North, ghee is used. Both are having the same quality, but they were used by the ancestors, not we. We are using that pattern that ancestors were using. It was good, healthy, but we are not using the lifestyle parameters which ancestors were doing. We are not doing it. In total, the question, coconut oil is good, but not for deep frying. You can use it for cooking.
Okay. Okay. So there is a question from Dr. Garima. Your views on management of osteoarthritis and varicose veins, sir?
Pardon? Osteoarthritis and varicose veins.
Yes, sir.
What is that connection with lifestyle medicine? Varicose vein is itself completely means disease oriented. It's not lifestyle oriented. Osteoarthritis can be. So should
Okay.
I answer for the osteoarthritis?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Please, sir.
Okay. When we are having osteoarthritis, any case, everyone knows what is osteoarthritis. It reduces the basic thing. It reduces the joint gap. Means there is a friction, there is an erosion, the joint gap goes down. Now, how the joint is being formed? It's a cartilage. What is that cartilage? Cartilage is being made by the glucosamine, the main component. If we are talking about the osteoarthritis itself, if you don't have any other complaint, like if you don't have thyroid problem, or if you don't have diabetes, only our osteoarthritis, that can be well managed by lifestyle medicine. Having a proper diet, having a proper exercise, but that exercise pattern will be different and diet pattern will be different. In nutshell, I will tell you, use dairy products, use eggs, use bone broth. You know what is bone broth? You can use bone broth. That is very good to increase the glucosamine. What is glucosamine? Again, the cartilage forming chemical. So it will improve the cartilage. That is the diet part. Again, the tobacco. I'm not talking about alcohol. Tobacco. Tobacco reduces glucosamine. Tobacco increases the damage to the erosion of the bone. So these things, tobacco also reduces the calcium absorption. So these things are there to manage osteoarthritis.
Okay, sir.
So I think actually most of the questions are going apart from what we discussed today.
Yes, sir.
No problem. See, that's why I said each individual, all 4 parameters of lifestyle, whatever you have, it's itself a 2 hours of session. Plus all diseases are itself a 2 hour session. Most welcome. I'm happy to answer. No problem.
Okay.
I think it's 451. 351.
No, definitely. Next time we can have more sessions, different.
Yeah. We can
You
make
decide.
another session.
You can decide
Okay.
our topic and
Yeah. We will definitely
they should
make
be
another
prepared
session.
with that.
We will decide. Dr. Vinodini, can we
Sir?
wind up the session?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. I think we are done
We
with the
just give
questions
about.
also.
Okay. We just give a vote of thanks to our students.
Yes, sir. Sir, I feel very privileged to deliver vote of thanks on this occasion, sir. It was a very informative session, sir. I've given such a thought-provoking session regarding the management of many heart problems, sir. Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of IHMA Kerala State Chapter, I express a deep sense of appreciation, sir. We feel very grateful for your session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your wonderful coordination. And thank you, Dr. Tipu, to inviting me. Dr. Shali actually connected. So it's a very good thing. Thank you so much. Looking
Okay, sir.
forward for more
Thank you.
sessions.
Thank
Sure,
you, sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir. We will
Thank you.
obviously arrange another session with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, sir.